All right, welcome back to Salt City Counseling, everybody. If you're new here, my name is Scott Carter. I'm a licensed therapist here in the beautiful state of Utah. This is like the fifth time today I've tried to record this video. I'm really determined to publish these healing narcissistic trauma videos on Sundays. I've had a lot of technical difficulties. I've had some interruptions and stuff like that. So take six, something like that. In this video, I'm going to continue laying some of this groundwork, some of this mental framework, some of this mental groundwork to heal narcissistic trauma. I'm going to talk about three things that you need to put your mind on, you put your mindset on if you want to empower yourself to heal your narcissistic trauma. I in my last video, I talked about, I believe it was the last video, I talked about how conventional therapy, like regular conventional therapy, is not very good at treating this. I feel like conventional therapy only reinforces trauma. And so I'm kind of creating these healing narcissistic trauma video series. I don't know how long they're going to be. They're going to go on indefinitely. So make sure you subscribe if this is helpful to you, if you like this content. And obviously share. Comment below. Tell me what you think. Tell me what's helpful. Tell me what's not. And in this video, like I said, I'm going to continue laying some of this groundwork. I'm going to talk about three different types of mindsets that it's important to adjust to and keep in mind. And always remember, if you're going to take this on, if you're going to look at this yourself. Now, once again, this is not intended to replace conventional therapy or regular therapy. So you may want to work with a therapist along the way. Frankly, I find that a lot of therapists, the conventional orthodox way of dealing with stuff like this is to just always process trauma. As someone who's been in mental health for 20 years now, I just don't find it that useful. I don't find it terribly useful or effective to just cycle through old traumas. I know that people who have this type of trauma, they live in this frantic mindset, always wanting to solve it. I talked about this in the last video. It's just almost, this mind is running on a hamster wheel. And so I'm providing this video series to help empower you to adopt new ways, find new approaches to tackle this issue. Narcissistic trauma is different from regular trauma. If you had a narcissistic parent or a narcissistic partner, you were probably given daily doses of this. And if I'm really honest, I feel like most of us get daily doses of like kind of what I'm calling everyday narcissism. I'm actually going to do a video on it. Make sure that you subscribe. You can hit the notification bell, and so that video will come your way, so that hopefully we can start building some awareness. We can start being mindful of when like everyday normalized types of narcissism come at us. Social media is your first hint. If you have narcissistic trauma, I did a video, by the way, on the results or traits of narcissistic trauma, clusters of behaviors. If you haven't seen it, go back and watch it. It'll kind of give you a starting point. And if you have these clusters of behavior, one of my first tips is to get off social media. I believe that normalized everyday narcissism comes at us through social media. I call it sociopath media. It's there's such a lack of empathy and zero tolerance. I'm going to get into this. I'm going to talk about some of this stuff. Actually, I'm going to get into that in my everyday narcissism video, so stay tuned for that. I'm probably going to record that after this one, but probably publish it later in the week. So stay tuned. Make sure that you subscribe. So in this video, I'm going to talk about three basic, like the building blocks, foundational things to remember as you take on this process. Again, you're more than at liberty to empower yourself, to learn new ways, to educate yourself, and to take this into your own hands. If you're going to watch these videos, if you're going to engage in this process, I highly recommend getting a notebook. It's upside down. Now it's backwards. Highly recommend getting a notebook and taking copious notes on these videos. Writing stuff down. Watch the video more than once. Write down things that are relevant for you. I also highly recommend, I talked about this kind of at the end of my previous video, adopting a meditation practice. Meditation is the single most effective way to change your brain and change your mind The scientific studies on meditation continue to just show more and more and more that meditation is like the single most effective way to change your brain and change your mind. Sorry, my mouth is super dry right now. So if you want, I teach a lot of clients how to meditate. There's lots of techniques to kind of provide an entry point. If you want me to provide some instructional videos on meditation, on how to simplify the process, some techniques to kind of give you that entry point, some different ways of approaching it, some different mindsets to approach meditation so that it's simpler, it's easier, and more effective for you, make sure you comment below. Let me get a little bit of housekeeping out of the way, and then I'm going to get into these 3 things that you must remember as you're kind of getting through this narcissistic trauma. And first of all, part of my housekeeping, please subscribe to my channel. I'm super close to my first 1 million, man. So hit subscribe, share, like, comment, all notification bell. You know what to do. If you really like my content, you want to keep especially these videos going, for example, hit the tip jar, Cash App, PayPal, Venmo. All the links are in the description below. Also, if you have a viewer question, scottc at saltcitycounseling.com. Also in the description below. You will remain anonymous if you have general questions about mental health, personality disorders, trauma, etc., etc., etc. You can also ask me a question in the comments. I'll do my best to get to some of those. If you do ask a question in the comment section, please do your best, by the way, to make that question as clear and concise and direct and as possible. Some people they just leave these short little questions and it's like, I'm not exactly sure what you mean by this. So if you really want me to answer a question, do a video on it, please make the question nice and clear. Okay, let's get into this. These 3 mindsets, okay? These are super important. So these 3 things to add to your mindset to help you heal your narcissistic trauma, they're going to throw you off. I'm just warning you, you're not going to like these. But you must do something different. In fact, I'm already kind of skipping ahead a little bit. You must realize that, like I said in my previous video, you cannot solve this issue from the same mindset that helped create it. That's an Albert Einstein quote. Okay, so let's get into number 1. Number 1 on my list is that you have to remember. Write this down. I want you to write this down if you're taking notes. It's not only okay to make mistakes, but it's important. It's necessary. It's okay to screw it up. And embracing this learning process and embracing mistakes is actually an act of self-love, okay? Now, narcissists cannot stand self-love. Narcissistic thinking, they cannot stand self-love. They will oppose it. They will oppose every last bit of anything that looks like self-love in lieu of personal hatred. They want you to hate yourself. They will make a good thing appear bad, and that would be self-love, right? But just as an act of self-love, understand that you are going to make mistakes, and that's okay. Just because you make mistakes doesn't mean you're not worthy, doesn't mean you're not lovable, doesn't mean you're incapable. Okay? So remember, it's okay to make mistakes. And I say this all the time in a lot of my content. You cannot do anything correctly unless you do it incorrectly first. You cannot do anything right unless you do it wrong first. So write that down. Okay? It's okay to make mistakes. I will not be able to do anything correctly until I do it incorrectly first. Okay? Number 2. Okay? You're going to be uncomfortable. You're going to go outside your comfort zones. What I find with people who have narcissistic trauma, they almost like for the sake of gravity, fall into almost like the emotionally safest place possible, and they stay stuck there. Okay? And that's where you don't want to remain. Even if the narcissist is out of your life, you're going to feel stuck there. And in that way, they're still controlling you if you stay exactly where you are. Okay? So remember that it's okay to not be okay. I want you to write that down. It's okay to not be okay. This is going to be uncomfortable. The fact of the matter is, you're already very uncomfortable. This is just going to be a different type of uncomfortable. It's going to be the type of uncomfortable that probably makes you feel more vulnerable. And you're going to have to face that if you want to get through, if you want to heal the narcissistic trauma, okay? So it's okay to be not okay. The discomfort that you already live with, it's the devil you know, man. And so it's important to understand you're going to have to push outside your comfort zone, even if your existing comfort zone is awful, is terrible, and it kind of sucks, okay? Number 3, and that is that you have to be willing to explore different ways of doing things. Meditation, for example. I find that a lot of people that have the narcissistic trauma, their minds never, ever, ever stop. And like I talked in my last video, that is actually the problem. If you can never get your over analytical, your overthinking mind, the hamster wheel mind, off that hamster wheel, even for short periods of time, you're never going to solve this. You cannot solve this by running faster on that mental hamster wheel. It can't be done. So you have to explore different ways. And what's the reason why I bring this up is I need people that if they want to solve this issue in their life, I need them to understand that they have to get off that hamster wheel for at least small periods of time, just to show that, hey, it's not a disaster if I'm not frantically trying to solve everything all the time. So what you have to be willing to understand, the third thing is to know that the right answers exist, but you haven't found them because they do not match or correspond with the hamster wheel mind, this frantic, have to solve everything right now mindset, okay? So write that down. The answer, like maybe put it in this context. The answers exist outside of my tunnel vision. And so I have to be willing to look outside my tunnel vision. If you're got that tunnel vision from this frantic mind and the right answers are out here all over the place, you're not going to see them. So the purpose of meditation is to get off that hamster wheel and allow your mind to relax for a minute, to learn to quiet your mind and see like, hey, you know what? There's lots of options. There's lots of right answers. I'm seeing things. Meditation is just going to frankly help you see things from a perspective that you've never really seen before. And that's partially why it's so highly valuable. Meditation is so important. So those are kind of your 3 basic things to remember as you go through this process. Just as a quick recap, it's okay to make mistakes. Okay. Number 2, this is going to make you uncomfortable. You have to be willing to be uncomfortable. You're going to have to be willing to be vulnerable in a different way. And number 3, you are going to have to explore options that you've never really considered before. During this process, I would highly recommend the book. The book is called Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. It's written by Dr. Joe Dispenza. I'm a big fan of Joe Dispenza. I really like his work. I've actually formatted a lot of these approaches to kind of his template for change. I've just sort of customized some of these ideas to help people work through this properly and actually change their mind, actually learn and grow and heal. Meditation is very healing. Meditation is going to help you heal. So I'd recommend that book. I would highly recommend it and adopt a lot of those mindsets, adopt a lot of those practices. Next week, I'm going to start talking about different exercises. Okay, these are like written exercises, homework that you can do to help start changing this mindset. Now I'm going to warn you, initially a lot of this stuff is going to sound weird or strange or crazy or like it's not going to work. But again, you have to remember what I've done has not worked. I do not know what the right answer is. And if I want to find the right answer, I have to be willing to do things that seem unconventional or off or weird. Okay? So make sure that you subscribe and hit the notification bell. You know when those videos are uploaded. Hopefully next week it won't be so late when I get that video uploaded because it's again, I just had a lot of technical difficulties. Okay? So hope that helps. And again, we're going to start doing some exercises next week. So stay tuned. We'll see you in the next one.